if you really want to achieve what your American dream is, first steps is being accountable, just pulling the trigger and trying it.
Welcome to the American Dream Builder and Investor podcast, where our vision is to inspire busy professionals, especially first and second generation immigrants and Americans, to explore the state of the American dream in 2022 and beyond. That is the Trinity of freedom: time, financial, and geography freedom. I'm your host, Missy Liu, and I have achieved financial independence, and I'm helping many others to do the same. I started out with $5,000 and have really built wealth for my family along the process. Now, I'm on a mission to help hundreds of thousands of people like me to do the same.
Welcome to the American Dream and Builder Investor podcast. In today's episode, we'll have Stella Han. She is the co-founder and CEO of Fractional. In case you haven't heard of it, it's a full-service marketplace for friends and investing communities to co-own real estate together. And I'm actually part of the platform as well, even though I haven't fully explored it. I'm super excited to try it out. And since the company started in 2021, which is just last year, Fractional has already helped thousands of new and experienced investors to team up and buy properties together, from single-family home, long-term rentals, to short-term rentals, to multifamily portfolios and portfolio deals in general. And before Fractional, Stella was a senior software engineer at a firm where she built and scaled prequalification, identification, verification, payment processing systems. And Stella, she actually graduated from a top school, Carnegie Mellon University, where she studied computer science as well. She's actually a second-generation American here, with being a ABC American born Chinese, with their parents who initially came from China as PhD students and high potential individuals in the country. So without further ado, Stella, I'd like to pass the mic to you. Is there anything in the bio that I may not have covered or might have mispronounced or did anything wrong?
No, hi, I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for having me and excited to share more about my story and what the American dream means to me, what we've been doing so far, and where we're hoping to take this from now on.
Yeah, awesome. So I like to start with, obviously, I think the first part of your bio, a lot of people may resonate with being immigrants. And a lot of us, whether it's first generation American or second generation American or immigrants in this country, we come here to wanting to contribute to this country. And your parents obviously have, with their special expertise in their area, being PhD students. In your path of being in the computer science area, I assume you have a strong mathematical background or love technology, so you went into there. What may not make sense to me right away is the transition from, you could have just stayed in your comfortable job as a software engineer, but you went ahead and started a company. Obviously, life is too short to live an ordinary life. Why not give it a try? And you live in the West Coast, San Francisco area. Technology makes sense. I would love to learn about how you made a transition from the software engineering position to co-investing and starting. And I'd love to just dive a little bit more into that afterwards as well.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share about that. I think a big part of it was actually really innate because of the family that I grew up in. So both my parents, they came from China. They were actually software engineers by trade as well. So they also studied computer science, computer vision while they were pursuing their master's and PhD here. So they started out in tech. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, like they just sit in front of a computer every day. Like this looks so boring. Like, I don't know why would I would get into it. And eventually it was just really, really cool to see what they were building and being able to build so quickly. That really inspired me. But something on the side that my parents had built was they had this side hustle where they've been flipping real estate in the Bay Area for the past decade. And that was also a big part of my day-to-day as well. Probably relatable for a lot of Asian families is that usually you get your children really involved in whatever you're doing. So a lot of times I was like the cheap family labor. We kind of joke that it's like, oh, Home Depot is like our Disneyland because we're always like trying to buy new things to like fix up the properties and whatnot. So I spent a lot of my weekends just underwriting deals, like watching all these contractors and like fixing things I here and there for my parents as well. And really, I started to see the connect of, for them, it was like that American dream meant financial stability, something that they can really call their own. And it was like each house, they were kind of seeing like their baby like transform under their own hands. And that was something that really empowered me. And I think it really left a seed in me where I was like, okay, I would love to own real estate, build my own portfolio, and do something similar to what they did as well. And so I wanted to join a really fast paced startup, and a firm was a really like a rocket ship, a company with a founder that was one of the founders of PayPal. The company was growing really quickly, and I wanted to be a part of that and go really quickly from essentially 0 to 1 and then 1 to N. And then from there, like after I got my first paycheck, I was like, okay, now that I have some money, right? Like, how do I use this to buy real estate? And it started being kind of like the exact same thing of what my parents were doing. But obviously now the times have changed, and it's impossible to buy anything in the Bay Area with a new grad salary. So I started thinking about like what are lower like cost minimum ways of getting into real estate. And at that time, pretty much the only viable solutions were crowdfunding platforms. So ended up doing a lot of research into things like Fundrise, CrowdStreet, all of that. And what really blew my mind was just that most of these platforms, they're only available for rich accredited investors and not actually, people that are short on capital like me that are non-accredited and need that low cost of entry. And I ended up landing at Fundrise, which was the only company that could take non-accredited investors. And I put $5,000 into it. And just within a quarter, I had only made 20 cents in dividends. And I was like, where did all of my money go? Like, I thought we were supposed to get rental income and everything. And I looked into it, and there were just a lot of asset management fees, trust fees. And when you're getting dividends from a crowd fund, you're not getting the direct real estate tax benefits either. So it really just drew a lot away from what motivated me into wanting to get into real estate investing and real estate ownership in the first place. And around that time, I was talking with my co-founder now, who was also my teammate and one of my really good friends at a firm. And he was also thinking about getting into real estate investing. And I told him about these problems that I was going through. And he kind of thought, why don't we just pour money together? Like, we'll just figure it out amongst ourselves, like just do it ourselves. We'll probably learn a lot from the experience too. And that's what we ended up doing, essentially forming a partnership or joint venture in real estate world, and pulled our money together. And that's really when we started connecting the dots. So yeah, really excited to be building Fractional now. And really, I think it was that mission and also having that founder market fit that gave us a lot of the confidence to pull the trigger, leave the software engineering job, and pursue our dreams that is going to help other people pursue their American dream of owning real estate as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. I think one really attractive part about the American dream before I came was the possibilities and the opportunities, because at least to me, there's no other country in the world that just offers the abundance of opportunities. When people say you just have to work hard and you make it happen, work hard, work smart, whatever that might be, but really the opportunity is there. So I just love it when people like you and others I know who just put in the work and striving towards their dream. In terms of investing into real estate, especially when it comes to larger commercial real estate, there tend to be the syndication processes, which is what I work on, and then we'll have passive investors and accredited investors. And those passive investors, mostly accredited investors, and we'll have the general partners. And in your platform, if I understood correctly, there isn't really a passive versus accredited investors. It's more like, for example, if you, me, and somebody else are friends, and we decided to purchase a 10 unit together, but if I want to be more of a silent partner, I still can. I wouldn't say it's necessarily competing with syndications or passive investments, because I think a lot of times those are kind of two different types of audiences. And I personally know people who participated in your programs, and because of that, because they invested a smaller amount, they got used to how real estate investing works. Now they're like, yeah, I'm ready to take on an investment syndication opportunity because I understand how this works. And for some of the families, they may want a little more active involvement. In that case, maybe the voting rights, that structure in your platform, that's good. In some cases, people just don't want to worry about it, because even having to think about that, like making decisions, I'm constantly in decision fatigue. So I think it's a very interesting like addition to the marketplace. And enabling more people to invest.
Yeah, definitely. Like even personally for myself, like I do co-ownership projects with my friends and other community members on Fractional. I've also been an LP in syndicates as well. I think being able to diversify in the way you invest is also pretty cool. And down the line, hopefully, we would love to support syndicators on the platform as well, where hopefully they're able to grow their network and still run syndication projects on Fractional, but be able to reach out to more community members. So yeah,
Yeah.
certainly don't see it as competitive. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there's a really great bridge. Yep.
This podcast is sponsored by Life Mission Capital, founded by me, Missy Liu, where my life mission is to help busy professionals invest well so they can focus on what matters. All my life, I was taught to study and work hard for my freedom. Until one day, I realized that unless I let my money work hard for me, I will always be trading my most precious resource, time, for freedom. Since then, we have also been helping our investors passively diversify into more than 1,000 units of recession and inflation-resistant alternative investments, such as multifamily, mobile home parks, short-term rentals, and more. Learn more with our free ebooks at lifemissioncapital.com.
I agree. And also the market is big. Yeah. So when it comes to investing in general, what are your overall investment philosophy apart from group ownership, group purchase? How do you look at in terms of, for example, due diligence on the partners, how people are feeling about it? Because sometimes not everyone's like, hey, we grew up together. We've been friends with 4 years. How do you look at the risks involved? Because that's always what I consider, right? Like when you're working with people in the project, you're looking at risks involved in the overall macroeconomic market, interest rate, geopolitical tensions, etc., and then risks related to the people who are actually more day-to-day operations on the properties, and the risks with a specific region, market, submarket, whether it's Arkansas, California, the west part, east part, and the specific neighborhood street and the specific property. How do you or your platform look at those things and really help guide the group or yourself or in your community to give more of a risk adjusted returns so that eventually more investors come back and because they've got benefit from your community?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So as a platform, we can't be a financial advisor. So it's difficult to point to people to say, hey, you should buy X or buy Y. But we are providing a lot of the safety nets that is making sure that people and their partners, especially if it's folks that weren't friends with before, for instance, and they met on Fractional or another community that's on Fractional. So for those, we are actually similar to at a firm, how we were doing, credit underwriting and seeing how much of a debt we can extend to someone. We are doing things very similar to that in the background at Fractional as well, where if you're going to put, say, $5,000 into a project, we want to see you're actually capable of handling that percentage of the project. So we're checking to see how much assets people have. We're getting their credit report to see their debt to income ratio and all of that to approve that you can actually be a qualified fractional co-owner and be a part of that project. So that already alleviates a lot of the risk, especially when you're buying with people where you don't have enough of financial clarity and you just kind of know them as a person. So I would say that is one really big checkpoint. The second one is, I would say it alleviates risk for people that don't necessarily want to be the personal guarantor behind a loan for a partnership. So what we've been able to do is, because of the success of the company, we've been able to build lending relationships where our lenders are actually willing to extend debt for a partnership that's set up on Fractional without needing a personal guarantor from any of the co-owners. So that helps people a lot, right? Because a lot of times people feel, well, I'm only a 25% equity owner, but I don't want to be 100% liable for the whole debt, which makes a lot of sense and resonates a lot with me as well. So that definitely alleviates a lot of risk as well. And I've seen a lot of partnerships where people do end up getting a loan where they are the personal guarantor because the interest rates are obviously going to be better that way. And the other group members are, very happy to give that person that got the debt a little bit more equity in the deal. So lots of different ways to pan it out. So the way we see it is our job is to create as much points of flexibility as possible and making sure people feel really comfortable and secure about their investment. And that liquidity aspect is another thing where, we're building a secondary marketplace to help people exit on their own timeline as well. I think a big question that everyone has is like, oh, what if I go into a partnership and like, I really need to come out, but my partners are still in it and I have an emergency and whatnot. So just making the general real estate market more liquid through the secondary marketplaces is something that we're working hard on right now, and we should be launching soon.
That sounds exciting. Liquidity is one side a constraint in the space of real estate investment. On the other side, it's what makes real estate investment a real estate investment. So it's interesting to see how that works out along with like blockchain technology and things like that. I love what you mentioned about the due diligence. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily provide guidance on, hey, you should make this decision versus not make the decision, but providing the information available, like what we would do in our investments about, here are some of the checks we've done, here's the background checks we've done, and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's really important, just giving people the tool and resources and educate them some of the use cases that you have seen, and they can make their own decision. That's really important. Great. Coming to the end of the show, we have a list of firing rounds of questions. And we usually ask them to all the speakers, starting with the first one. What is your life mission like? Kind of the underlying motivation behind everything that you do today or for the future?
Yeah, I think for me, I just feel like I control my own destiny. So I want to be someone that is driving a lot of impact, and I get to control where that's going. And I would love to take whatever I have to empower more people, whether it's folks on my team or the people that we're serving from our products. So I feel like I've been very self-driven. I think with that energy, it really gets you far. And when you have a lot of people that have this mindset, that's really where you get to make a lot of progress as well.
Awesome. Yeah, impact is definitely important. It helps you think more than just you. So it helps you driving forward. I love that. And since the podcast is about investing and you're obviously an investor, what do you think has been your worst or best investment so far?
Mm, this is corny, but I think it's very important to invest in yourself. And, just like invest in, I think being very open-minded and stepping out of your comfort zone in terms of learning about new opportunities, different ways to invest. That has been very eye-opening for me. And I think when you're open-minded in that sense, it actually makes you have a more diversified portfolio as well. And I think that ends up helping you be more like risk adjusted as an investor, because been open-minded to try different things and you'll find stuff that like works for you. So for me personally, I've tried a bunch of stuff, including like crypto investing and whatnot. And that is not for me, even though like everyone kind of wants to talk about that in tech. And I personally enjoy real estate more. And even in real estate, there are a lot of different ways to invest in real estate,
Correct.
like we discussed earlier.
Mm.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's like a one best investment, but I feel like just having that strategy where it's like you're open to trying a lot of things and creating a diversified portfolio and then figuring out from there for what you might want to double down on. That's personally worked really well for myself.
Okay, that makes sense. Last question. How can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, come find me on Fractional. That's definitely a great way to do it. You can connect with a lot of different investors, including myself. So definitely you can find me there. I'm also in a bunch of real estate investing communities as well. So join those on Facebook, Discord, and Slack, and you might be able to bump into me there. And yeah, I mean, I'm around your network too. So yeah, they can also reach me from you. But yeah, I'm really
Awesome.
excited to meet everyone, and hopefully this was really insightful. I certainly had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Stella. I know you got to run as well. So I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the American Dream Builder and Investor podcast with me, Missy Liu. We hope you enjoy the tips and tricks that others have used to build their American dream and their trinity of freedom. We would love for you to subscribe and leave a rating and a review. You can also find all the episodes and details on lifemissioncapital.com. Until then, let your life mission go wild.